and welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie we're reviewing today. On February 26th, I watched Hotel Rwanda, which came out in 2004. Don Cheadle stars here, and it's a shame he hasn't got more of these strong leading roles. And the idea that some people might only know him from Ocean's 11 or the Marvel movies is super disappointing to me. This is yet another in the long line of based on a true story movies I've seen, but I only really knew the broadest details of what happened there in Rwanda. And being a Canadian and seeing the Canadian flag over and over again on Nick Nolte's shoulder was enough to make me feel like I should know this story better than I do. I even own that book by Romeo Dallaire, Shake Hands with the Devil, which is all about this, but I'm not much of a reader, so for now my only source of information on the subject will have to be this movie. It definitely deserves credit for being able to tell an exciting and entertaining story, all while being very informative as well. Sometimes, dealing with such a dark and serious topic can lead to a story being told too dryly, and it can come across as more of a documentary, rather than a true Hollywood movie. But you also really don't want to go too heavy with that Hollywood style, because then it will feel like you're capitalizing in a gross way on such a huge tragedy. Thankfully, this movie manages to find that sweet spot in the middle, and I think a lot of that is due to the decision to focus the story on the hotel and its manager Sam, played by Cheadle. Keeping the story driven through his perspective allows us to be just as surprised as he is by everything that's happening, since Sam seems to be one of the only people in his country still clinging to some hope that they can avoid all this mess. Watching that hope get tested and dwindled away over and over again was a rough thing to sit through, so maybe describing this movie as entertaining was the wrong word, but I'm still glad I watched it, and it had my attention gripped the entire time, so it's clearly some form of entertainment. I know it's a ridiculously pampered thing to complain about with a true story based on such horrors, but it was almost too sad for me. That's just more of a personal preference, but I really have to be in the mood to watch such a super sad movie like this, and I generally would just prefer to watch something that's going to leave a smile on my face rather than make me cry. Still though, as depressing as this was, it might be even more scary to think about afterwards, especially compared to most horror films, because this is such a real kind of hate, and the fact that it was all a learned kind of racism was really disturbing to me. It was easily the most interesting fact I learned watching this one, that when Belgium originally conquered the land, they used to measure nose widths and look for the most European faces, with the lightest skin tone, and then turned them into the ruling class when they left. This inevitably led to a massive social divide, and tensions of course built and built to this terrible breaking point we see in this movie. I doubt this one will be nearly as impactful on second viewing, but the first sit-through packed a real emotional punch. I had a real gut reaction to the pain in this one more than once, and by the time the ending finally came around, I was desperate for that final glimpse of hope for a new day, but even that was fairly bleak. All I know for sure is Don Cheadle definitely deserved the Oscar over Jamie Foxx and Ray. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10, and it landed at number 142 on my list, putting it right here. In between Silence of the Lambs and Gattaca. So thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week. And if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.